Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the midpoint of season 3. My name is Mike Larkin, and welcome to another edition of Uncaged. And by my side, as always, is my boy DC, the one, the only Daniel Crimmins. Daniel, how you doing tonight?
Michael, I am doing well. It is a cold Saturday up here in Western New York. But you know what? Any day's a good day when we get to talk some positive about wrestling. And it seems like all we do lately is negative. There's so much. But you know what, folks? We got a good one today. Mike, what do we got today?
That we do. We are talking about the greatest and some of our absolute favorite managers in the history of WWE and just in general, man. Managers have a very important role in the craft and the art form that is professional wrestling.
Exactly.
So, dude, like, how can you go wrong? I mean, it accelerates and it amplifies the character, it amplifies the overall foundation. Let's go, man.
And not only that, but if you have a talent who maybe they're not the best on the microphone, you get a good manager, they don't need to. For example, we'll start right off the bat with one of my absolute favorites, and I think the greatest manager this generation, at least. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Paul Heyman.
You said it correctly there. And now
look at Brock. Look where he started with Brock Lesnar.
Brock,
when he started, couldn't talk.
Yeah, watching like that run in 2002, I'm just thinking to myself, like, when you see him come out, like Brock starts mollywopping everybody. He takes out Spike Dudley, he takes out Maven, he takes out Al Snow. Then he just raises Brock's hand, and then my client, the next big thing, Brock Lesnar, and that started it all right there.
Yeah, I mean, he's done Brock Lesnar. He did Curtis Axel, which I thought at the time was kind of weird, but okay. Well, he managed Punk.
The thing too is I got to add to the Curtis Axel one because you're making me laugh at that one. So when you think of Curtis Axel and like he broke away from the Michael McGillicuddy stuff, like they were pushing that son of a gun. Like he was going into as the Intercontinental Champion. He was wrestling Triple H. He was involved in a lot of big stuff. Like you mentioned the CM Punk stuff, but he never got off the ground with that character until Axelmania happened.
Well, and I'll say this. I think part of the problem, and this is what I've always felt this with him, they booked him as Curtis Axel. Call him Joe Hennig.
Yeah, I mean, Michael McGillicuddy, they try to explain it like it was his mother's maiden name, but I'm like, you're fucking Joe Hennig.
I think it was.
It was, but it's like your fucking last name is Hennig, your father's Kurt Hennig, just go with Joe Hennig.
Your grandfather is Larry the Axe.
Yeah, Hennig, yep.
And, like, you look just like your father.
Like, directly like your daddy.
Like, honestly, I think if they had called him Joe Hennig or Mike Hennig, if you don't want to use the name of Joe, whatever, would have been better. But I don't totally fault him. But you know what? He got over with Axelmania. Him and Macho Mandow.
That's the thing, man. It worked for him because he never was eliminated from the Royal Rumble, and the comedy side, but also just letting him showcase his personality really went a long way with that character. And like you mentioned with Punk and CM Punk and Paul Heyman, like when he turned heel, that being CM Punk, he attacks The Rock at Raw 1000. Then you see him, with Paul Heyman in the car in the limo. And just everything that went into there, because Punk was always a Paul Heyman guy. Paul Heyman taught him about production and everything when he was down in OVW. He saw him as the big star when he was on the ECW brand. So those two combining together and really kind of meshed not only very well, but it played off the fact that they are real life friends.
Oh, absolutely. And just you look at somebody like a Paul Heyman. Look what he's done for Roman.
This is probably the best version, the best incarnation of the Roman Reigns character. Ever since he came back in 2020, speared The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, God rest his soul, speared Braun Strowman, had that incarnation of the tribal chief. You saw Paul Heyman sit next to him, and then they gave us what we have here today and in living color. So, I mean, this is probably the best thing that ever could have happened to Roman Reigns was that heel turn.
I remember that SmackDown where I believe it was Adam Pearce, trying to get Roman to sign the contract. And then the camera pans over, and who's sitting next to Roman?
Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman. And the crowd, the reaction was just like, I remember watching that thinking like, wait a minute, like, and part of, to me, what makes Heyman such an effective manager is the facial expressions.
Well, yeah, when he's like, no, like perfect example, WrestleMania 30 when Brock won the streak, and he's like, oh my God.
Which was his reaction.
Like legit reaction.
There's three that knew what was going to happen that night. Brock, Taker, Vince. The ref didn't know.
Ref didn't know. Paul didn't know. The whole nine.
So when you see Paul doing the, oh my God, you did it.
It was legit. And
we talked about that last season, about the streak and whether it was the right call, which I still say it was. Ultimately, in retrospect, 10 years later, yes.
Oh, yeah, but that's what makes it, is because like that moment of him saying that and just everything really accentuates that moment. And I mean, for me with Paul Heyman, like, I mean, they tried to do stuff with like him and Cesaro, like Cesaro when he broke away from the Real Americans with Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter, like that I thought was a lost opportunity, and you could have done more with that. But as Cesaro has said, Claudio has said, the reason why that didn't go into fruition as long as it did was because Brock Lesnar came back.
Yeah. And honestly, with Cesaro and him, like again, I think it's a Vince thing. Like Vince never understood Cesaro or Claudio or whatever you want to call him.
He's Swiss. What the fuck? He's Swiss.
I'm surprised he didn't give him like a little, like, the kind of the leader hosen, which they gave that to Johnny Gargano.
Yes, exactly.
So looking at that, and Paul's not a traditional manager in that he doesn't, really get involved in matches.
No, I mean, okay, I'm going to add this because he's one of our boys, and I say this sarcastically. He did manage Ryback for a little bit, which was very weird during that Punk feud. That happened.
That love fest where he's hugging him.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That happened, folks.
And didn't Ryback kiss the top of Paul Heyman's head?
Yes, he did. That happened.
Ryback is a Paul Heyman guy.
I mean, go back even to the days in the 90s when he had the telephone and he was with Mean Mark Callis and he was with all those
Dangerous Alliance.
The Dangerous Alliance, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stunning Steve Williams, and Stunning Steve Austin, and fucking Rick Rude, and everybody that was encompassed in that group, Medusa, the whole
nine. And that Mean Mark Callis guy, wonder whatever happened to him.
I wonder, man. I heard he was an Undertaker now.
I've heard he worked in a graveyard.
I heard he moved to Death Valley.
I think his career is kind of dead, though.
Yeah, I think it is too, man.
He went for a last ride, though.
Yeah, he did.
And I've heard his favorite brand of pizza is Tombstone.
Your Huckleberry.
I don't know. I don't have any more.
You got any more puns or puns?
I think we used them all.
I think we did too, but I think the main thing though is when you think of him.
But we'll let it rest in peace.
There you go.
Well, we're going old school now.
I love you, man. But no,
I think
that's the best one.
That's it. I think we got them all.
I think you did, but no, that's the thing too. Is you also have like when he was with the phone back in the day, like hitting Jason Hervey in the back of the head from the Wonder Years, or when he's in ECW with 911 and 911's choke slamming everybody. Like that also accentuated the 911 character as his bodyguard.
Oh yeah, and there's just something about him. He's that outlandish. He's he's a New Yorker.
Well,
and at the time, he's in WCW, a Southern-based promotion, as a Yankee.
Yep.
And to me, he gets it. And like I've said, managers are an art form.
It's the subtleties, intricacies, and nuances that go into being a manager. Like you mentioned, the facial expression, but you also have to have the charisma and personality. And Paul Heyman certainly exudes and accentuates that. But also at the same time, I mean, even when he can do no wrong, whether he's a manager, whether he was on commentary for a little bit, like him and Jim Ross were a hilarious team when they were where they were a commentary team in '01. Even if you look back to the '90s, but
they fed off each other.
They did. He fed off each other. Paul Heyman like pissing JR off. It worked.
And then I'm still reminded of the night after Survivor Series 01.
Mm-hmm.
When Jerry Lawler came back and Heyman just dives over the desk at Jim Ross.
And he just starts hitting him and hitting him.
And he was hitting him.
He was. Come on, you son of a bitch.
Come on, you son of a bitch.
Like that was
you could hear him. He was actually mollywopping the guy.
He was mollywopping Paul Heyman. He was good. It was funny. Like also the fact that Paul he thinks like Vince is like, gonna get him back in there. He's not fired. He got away with it. And then Vince just tells him you're fired. And then he goes right after JR. Then he gets carried out. It was awesome. Like everything about that moment was awesome.
It was. And it's like Paul Heyman, his mind, and people say what you want about him. Dreamer said, like, literally everybody that's ever stepped foot in ECW has had something to say about Paul Heyman.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and just as an aside, it's kind of ironic if you think about it. Vince McMahon run out of town.
Uh-huh.
Eric Bischoff barely involved in wrestling anymore.
Uh-huh.
Paul Heyman still involved regularly. So technically,
ECW won.
ECW won.
I mean, if you look at it, like everybody thought it was such a big moment back in 05 when they were going towards the first one night stand and Paul, Eric Bischoff, and Vince McMahon were all in the same ring. I mean, that was a special moment because ECW was getting a one night resurgence, and well, Eric Bischoff would never get a WCW one night stand or one night only. But
nobody would pay to see that.
No, they would not. And I mean, with Eric Bischoff,
I guess, just not to interrupt you, but there were plans to do a WCW one night stand, but I guess they felt nobody would pay to see it.
I mean, Eric always talks about the fact like they were going to try to do a WCW pay-per-view when he was getting ready to buy WCW, but I mean, then AOL and Time Warner and everything happened there.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. We're not going to do one. And that's the thing, too. It's just from the fact of, like, with Eric Bischoff, I mean, he still has his podcast. I mean, he still chimes in with his opinions. And, I mean, some are warranted. Some are, some people agree, some people don't. But, I mean, for Eric is still around in that aspect. And Vince, well, we know what's happening with Vince. But also the fact that Paul Heyman, man, like, a great mind. He was a good portion of the SmackDown writing team with the SmackDown 6 with 2002. I mean, the dude is just a genius. He's an evil genius, if you will.
It makes you wonder if he had WWE money running ECW, where would we be right now?
Oh, man. I think we would probably still have a lot of the stars that you would see today. I think he would look to elevate the younger talent, and I think he would look to get the best out of them. Even if he felt that they were subpar, he would try to elevate them to a certain level where they would feel comfortable and even accelerate them. I think Paul would be very hands-on, and he would be very hands-on with the audience and what they want and what they would project with his product.
And, he tried things. Like, he did some pretty out there shit. But, we talk about today's managers and some of the best, but to me, one of the absolute greatest of all time, Percival Pringle III, a.k.a. Paul Bearer, a.k.a. Percy Pringle. Paul Bearer, to me, is another guy that was a fan. And he got it.
For me, I think when you think of The Undertaker, you instantly think of Paul Bearer and you think of, oh, yes!
Exactly.
And when you think of Paul Bearer, now you mentioned like Paul Heyman, the facial expressions, everything that goes into what he does, that look that "You're no son of mine" when the Undertaker came back to face Kane at WrestleMania
Mhm.
20. For me, one of my favorite things as well is like even the night when he wouldn't give Undertaker back the urn, and then he would go be with Mankind for a little bit, and of course the Kane feud, coming back in 2010, and then having him turn on the Undertaker and be with Kane, and then Edge stuffing him into a freezer, and then Paul Bearer getting stuffed into a freezer again, the Undertaker killing him off in the concrete crypt. He's had so many different levels and layers to his character from 1990 and his inception to where he was into the later years, and God rest his soul. But yo, man, like he could do no wrong as a manager. I mean, even as Percy Pringle, like you so eloquently told me, and as we all know, he was the last manager for L.A. Knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just again, he was so good. Like even in his brief TNA stint in early 2002, 2003. I mean, for God's sake, I know the man.
Everybody's got to listen to the fat man.
Yes. My thing though with Percy Pringle and Paul Bear is again, we talk about facial expressions and him being involved in one of the greatest angles ever. But at the same time, with that man, it doesn't matter if he was. I know he was going through a lot of health issues at the time, but when you think of the Undertaker's initial run as the Phenom, you could not have it put better than just Paul Bear at WrestleMania 20, going into the feud with Booker T and the Dudleys and whatnot. Even if it was a short stint, like they made that shit work.
Yeah. And you know, when you think of early Undertaker, I mean, like, you know, Inception up until I would say 96 ish
Yeah.
when they split,
Mhm.
Undertaker never needed to talk. I mean, Mark Calloway's a great speaker, but in the old days, he didn't need to.
He's one like a Brock, and I'll equate it back to Heyman. Like Brock Lesnar was not a good talker. He would
Still isn't.
still isn't, and Paul Heyman was that guy that held that glue. Undertaker with the presence, all he would needed to say was "rest in peace" or a little smidge. But Paul Bearer was that guy that talked for the Undertaker. You know what I'm saying? Like he
Yeah.
made that character, the urn, and everything. Just Undertaker was also so menacing with his look and his overall stature and appearance. Like
Yeah.
you're one of those guys. You don't need to say anything really.
And if you recall, one of the worst matches, but a really cool storyline, Undertaker versus Undertaker.
We've touched upon this, yes. My thing with that is the Leslie Nielsen spot was great. I thought that was comedic genius, but the thing was terrible
We're
because
on the case.
we're on the case. But Brian Lee, the thing with Brian Lee is just like he didn't look. Number one, he was shorter. He was just no. We saw that stare down. Just it didn't work. They tried something, but it didn't work.
And then they brought him back as Chains.
Yep, and the Disciples of Apocalypse.
And then he did something.
Oh yeah, it involves
You
the
don't.
Undertaker.
You don't cross the Undertaker.
No, and he did, and he can go fuck himself for that. But
He pissed in the folks. If you want to find out what he did, Google it. Let's just say he pissed in the Undertaker's doghouse.
he did. If you look up Undertaker Brian Lee, you can see why those two do not like each other.
And to this day, 20 years later,
20 plus.
he's basically blacklisted from WWE.
Oh yeah, it's that kind of hatred. I mean, but Brian Lee, I mean, I liked his career in ECW when he was with Tommy Dreamer, and they had those feuds where he was choke slamming him off like the scaffolding and shit. But stuff like that. But man, it's like stuff like that. You think of the Undertaker, like you talked about early Inception here, like when he was guiding him towards Hulk Hogan and winning that first WWF title. Even through all the WrestleManias, like you mentioned, from 91 to 96. And then he came back with 04. I think what we got out of Paul Bearer as well is he can make anybody. He made LA Knight look good. He made The Undertaker look good. He helped elevate Kane. He helped elevate Mick Foley. Mankind, being his first manager. Like, I'm going to say it. It's one of the most underrated pairings is Mankind and Paul Bearer.
Yeah. And then, to that end, you also have those managers that, while they may not be, getting involved physically, they add something. They're like that missing piece, and again, God rest her soul, one of the classiest managers, Miss Elizabeth.
For me, she made not just the fact that they were really a couple, like with what she did with the Macho Man and just her elegance and just her grace of when she came out and would wave to people and smile. Like she had that aura about her. I mean, she
Mhm.
was not afraid as well to showcase that sexiness from time to time, especially
The
going to
original diva.
yes,
Was
especially
her.
yes, and especially going to that feud with Ric Flair for WrestleMania 8 with him and Savage, like that worked a lot. Like Ric Flair apparently had a thing with Miss Elizabeth, and then they broke off. And then when
She
Randy
had
and
the pictures and turned out
yeah,
to be nothing.
turned out to be nothing. I mean, that also kind of equates to even before that when Randy and Miss Elizabeth split, and Randy was with Sensational Sherry, and he was the Macho King, and then
That
the
was what
Sherry.
Mania was that 6? The Ultimate Warrior slash the Ultimate
Oh,
Warrior Macho Man feud.
the retirement match? No, that was
Yeah.
WrestleMania 7? 7, 91. Yep, WrestleMania 7, 1991.
Wait, was 6 was Hogan versus Warrior, I think.
Yes, 6 was Hogan Warrior. WrestleMania 7 was Warrior and Savage. Yep.
So in looking at it, you think of that specific Mania, that moment.
Uh-huh.
Savage, has gotten mollywopped by Sherry,
Uh-huh.
and then Miss Elizabeth comes out, and then what do we get? We get the reunion. Then a couple weeks later, we get the Elizabeth, I love you. Will you marry me? Which, for folks that don't know, they were already divorced at this time.
Yes, that's right. They had like broken off. They were yeah.
And it's anybody you hear people that know source of people that knew her and worked with her. You always hear she was a class act,
Uh-huh.
and it's sad. And from what I know, he's still not in the Hall of Fame.
No, and I mean, like you talk about that moment, like them hugging and then getting married at SummerSlam, which is probably one of the most beautiful weddings ever. That really didn't have any problems until the after party, but and then Jake Roberts giving them a snake for the freaking wedding as a gift. My thing with her not being in the Hall of Fame is just, I mean, there's all the stuff that happened with her and Lex Luger, and God rest her soul because she's no longer with us. But I don't know, man. It's just like she's definitely one that needs to definitely go into the Hall of Fame.
And why she's not, I'm sure there's more there that we don't know.
This is true, and I mean it. I mean, if Randy's in, why not put in Miss Elizabeth? I think it's very apparent. Lanny Poffo's in there. Like, come on now.
Unless it's an issue with her family, her relatives don't want her in. I don't know, but at that time, we had a lot of great female managers. You had people like Missy Hyatt. You had Baby Doll, and of course, if we're talking WWE, I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about, even though he never needed a manager, the manager for the American Dream, Dudley Rhodes. Talk
This,
about Sweet Sapphire,
here's
who
my
was
thing.
a fan.
Yes,
Started off as a fan, got plucked from the crowd, and
yeah. It's just my thing with her is like the fact that they had a nice little feud with Ted DiBiase and Sharon Martel and whatnot going into that. What I liked about Sapphire is again, it was a nice little thing to add to Dusty Rhodes' character with the dancing, and they fit well together. I know she turned heel for a little bit, getting the $1 million man treatment, getting all the nice gifts and whatnot.
it
But I
made
think
no sense.
it made no sense, but it was fun just because she was good as the face. The heel turn sucked, like you mentioned there, but the babyface run of her just dancing and just being that fan, being that exuberance to Dusty Rhodes, it worked because it was a nice collective babyface unit that people can get behind. And just at the
Oh, yeah.
time, it was fun, it was entertaining, and Dusty Rhodes can make anything look good, even if he's wearing polka dots.
Especially yellow polka dots.
Yellow polka dots, yes. And I mean, on the other side of the coin, there you mentioned sensational Sherry Martel, like what she did with Ted DiBiase, what she did with Macho Man. Hell, we'll even go to WCW when she was with the Harlem Heat and that
Mhm.
infamous promo
Oh, God.
that
Hulk
happened.
Hogan, We
We
come for you.
coming for you, N-word. And then she's just like, Booker, it's okay. It's okay, Booker. It's okay.
And I think but you can tell to see, and Stevie Ray's even like,
Oh, God. Fucking what the hell? What the hell, Booker?
but you know what? You see interviews with Hogan, and Hogan didn't care.
No, he even did you know what he said that Booker T said he said to him? You know what he said?
No.
He said Booker T said Hulk Hogan came up to him and they were talking. He goes, you know what? But I'm a good N-word. Hulk Hogan, I'm a good N-word.
The fact that Hogan supposedly said that, I'm not shocked.
Am I shocked? No. No, I am not. In light of recent events, no, I am not shocked that Hulk Hogan said that.
And WCW managers, you had guys like Colonel Robert Parker, who I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
Yeah, I mean, for me with managers in WCW, I always looked at much like with WWF. I look at people like Jimmy Hart with the Nasty Boys and
Oh yeah,
with the Hart Foundation and Jimmy
natural
Hart,
disasters.
the natural disasters. Yeah, but he was one like he was just a loudmouth. He was a motor mouth, but he was so good with that doggone megaphone. You hated him, but he was just so funny.
And you wanted, and to me, I don't think he ever worked as a face as well.
He's just a natural heel. That's just someone who's a natural
Like a
heel.
Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
You respect the hell out of him, but you hate him.
Agreed. Like, you didn't need him to be a babyface.
No. And one manager, and I think, God rest her soul, she's highly underrated as a manager. Woman.
Ooh, Kevin Sullivan. Yeah.
Nancy Benoit, God rest her soul. The sad thing is, everybody that has worked with her has even said she should be in the Hall of Fame.
She should. I mean, what she did with Kevin Sullivan and what she did with that whole unit like she did in WCW and ECW, I think she was another one that could elevate anybody that she was with. She was another one, just a very beautiful person with a beautiful spirit, but she's just was such a good heel at what she did.
And I think part of it, and you always hear stories of people that said that backstage, like whenever wrestlers would bring their kids around, she was always there, to kind of, be nice to the kids. And I always feel like it's the heels that are the best afterwards.
I'll actually add one to your point there. So there was a AEW signing, and Christian was kind of being mean to the kid and giving her a look. And then, he took her little belt from her, and then he gave her it back and smiled at her and gave her a hug. Like, it's the heels because they know that they can go at them and have some fun, but then you can also, be nice to them. It's like, hey, this is just an act. I'm only kidding. Like we're having fun here. So I think it's
there's a story. I'm going to go off on this real quick.
Yeah.
That Iron Sheik told that years and years and years ago, a fan asked Andre the Giant for an autograph, and Andre said, "No, get lost." Andre was a babyface at the time.
Yes.
See, as a heel, you can get away with that.
Babyface, you can't.
You got to smile for the kids. Now, whether this is true or not, you never know. Sheik broke kayfabe, signed the kid's autograph.
Wow. Okay.
And it's funny that later in life, Sheik became the biggest babyface. God rest his soul.
God rest his soul too. But that's the thing, man. It's just like, I mean, you could portray that bad character, that heel character, but again, as a babyface, it's all smiles, and you have kids that look up to you, like especially Andre the Giant with what he did with his run. And you do that, that's kind of messed up, but also at the same time, it's just like, it was probably also at a time when he was also kind of like miserable, right? There was like a point in his life when he was like really miserable. He was not in a good place. So I'm guessing that was around that time. This was like before his death, I'm thinking.
Yeah. And now you look at some of the managers now, you don't see them all that often.
No, but I mean, you mentioned a woman one, like 2006, if you want to equate this, like Melina was not bad with Eminem. No. Like she was good, like the splits and just the screaming and just like being that bitch. Like Those splits, yes. No, she still looks amazing, by the way. She still
Oh
looks
yeah,
like such beauty. Like the fact that she got that Royal Rumble moment with Sasha, I thought that was awesome. But yeah, no, she was another one that was very underrated. I always liked Melina.
very much so. And now I think you talk great managers now. Prince Nana.
So I remember my first time seeing Prince Nana was in Ring of Honor when he was managing Jimmy Rave, God rest his soul, in the Embassy. He was always so funny, like just everything that he did, especially now with Swerve, and the doggone dance is just amazing. So I mean, like he's another one who's just so funny and can entertain a crowd. And
That's it.
he does, and he's a former wrestler in his own right too. He used to be huge.
And you know what? He gets it. Like he's funny. He can work. He can connect with the crowd. And Swerve is a guy that doesn't need it.
Mm-mm.
He's Swerve's great on the mic. He's good at what he does. He doesn't need a manager, but it's that missing piece.
I think so, and I think for me, if you look at it, even
And he
in
makes that goddamn song so catchy.
Swerve when I drive, right? Swerve when I
And
drive.
I'm not even doing that dance because I'm gonna embarrass myself and you by association.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I'm a white boy with rhythm. You not so much, and you can admit that. It's okay.
Guilty as charged.
Charged. But I will say this to go into your point, like with the modern day managers, like you mentioned Prince Nana, we mentioned Melina. Like I always also was a fan of what we got to see even in TNA when like Chris Candido was with the Naturals, or when Desire was the valet with Sonny Siaki. Like Desire was good Trinity. Tracy Brooks when she was at Michael Shane and Frankie Kazarian. I'll even equate it to, geez Louise, like even like the early stages of Booker T and Charmel, because that is his wife, but also King Booker and Queen Charmel.
Yeah.
Booker and Queen Charmel, because Queen Charmel was awesome. There was a lot of great valets for the time. You already got the good ones like Baby Doll and Missy Hyatt, even though you could say what you will about Missy Hyatt and what she's done outside of the professional wrestling ring, if you know what I'm saying. But she still is.
You know.
If you know, you know. But she's still one of the greats. I mean, I'm going to say this very briefly, and I don't like her as a person, but what she did on screen was really, really good. Tammy Sitch, Sonny. I mean, we're going to say it, like she was a good manager with the Body Donnas and LOD 2000, and she was an imposing figure. So, I mean,
Don't forget the Godwins.
the Godwin,
For a very brief time.
the Godwins, yes, and she got the slop poured on her. But, I mean, she was good.
Was there anybody at that time she didn't manage?
Body Donnas, Candido, Solo, the Godwins, LOD 2000. No, she was all up in the mix around that brief WWE time. Yeah.
To me, the whole LOD thing made no sense. Like,
first of all, when you think of LOD and managers, you think of the great Paul Ellering. There's another one to add to the list there.
I am so glad to see him on TV.
Me too. Like the Final Testament looks amazing,
and it's a cool name.
Yeah, I mean, I think they finally found something with Karrion Kross that actually works.
And you got MVP, great wrestler, great manager.
Mm-hmm.
And he does great work with Omos, but I feel like MVP, could do so much more. Like, give him a stable. Like, you don't even have to call it the Hurt Business. Just give him somebody.
I think with me, as long as I'm watching him knock Chris Jericho out again, that would be awesome, because that was just fucking funny and amazing that he knocked out Chris Jericho on his own cruise. With everything with MVP in the Hurt Business, I mean, he's just, besides the fact that he's a good talker and a good talent, like watching him from his inception in 06 in WWE to now, he was just always good as being that manager. I mean, even his brief TNA run when he was not just the BBC and the what the hell was the name of it? It was the I said it's the BCC or
the Beatdown Clan.
Beatdown Clan, the BDC. I'm saying BCC, sorry. The Beatdown Clan. Thank you. And he was the authority figure for the director of authority for TNA.
And also, fun fact, the very first IWGP Intercontinental Champion.
That's right. Yes, you're correct on that. But he could do no wrong. Music, managing, wrestling, like he's another one that a lot of people sleep on, which you shouldn't, because MVP is the fucking man. And
Oh,
also
yeah.
the fact, and I'll add this for manager wise too. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think like any ones that really like stick out. I mean, you mentioned the good ones like Colonel Parker, and you mentioned the good ones in WCW like that. But I would be remiss if we did not mention the GOAT himself, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Oh, yeah. And there's two more I've been holding in my back pocket.
Okay.
But let's expand on Heenan a little bit. It's you and I grew up in a time where we had Heenan on commentary. We had him as a manager. His commentary alone was just, we had him in WWE with Gorilla Monsoon and Vince, and again, genius. If I could have a time machine, I would love to hear him and Paul Heyman go back and forth.
I think for me, to add to your point with Bobby, and this also kind of pertains to Sensational Sherry, because this launched Shawn Michaels as the heel character in Sensational Sherry and the start of it. But the infamous commentary line from the barbershop with Brutus Beefcake, he super kicks Marty Jannetty, throws him through the window, and Bobby Heenan with the infamous, did you see that? Jannetty was trying to escape, and Gorilla Monsoon's like, are you blind? They just
And we had, I still remember, if you rewatch Bash at the Beach in 1996,
Mhm.
the leg drop heard around the world, the formation of the NWO.
Whose
You
side
see
is he
Hogan
on?
come down, and you see, yeah, but whose side's on? And they're saying, are you crazy? You watch that back and you think like, and then you see Heenan saying, I told you Hogan was no good. I told you.
It's one of the most, again, he's been in so much iconic moments. Like, I was so happy. Like, we could talk about him managing Andre, that infamous build to WrestleMania 3. He wants your title, Hogan. And then Hogan's like, Andre, don't listen to him. And then he rips the cross off, and then you see the blood on the chest. And then Hogan's like, yes, I will face him at WrestleMania 3, that infamous Piper's Pit. Like,
And now, the fact, if you recall, the belt that they brought out for Andre,
yeah.
that beast, and there's also the belt that they used in No Holds Barred. Now, initially, that was set to be the new WWF World Heavyweight Championship.
Right.
Hogan didn't like it. Hogan said, no. So they switched it out for a different one. And I heard a rumor. I don't know how true, folks, wrestling stories. You always hear stories. Oh, is this true? Oh, no. Is that? Supposedly, at one point, Andre was initially supposed to beat Hogan at WrestleMania 3.
Wow. Okay.
I think it was a right call to have Hogan win that one.
I think so too. Then we wouldn't have had the infamous body slam heard around the world at WrestleMania 3. And that call, look at this, he slammed him. I mean, with Bobby, like you talk about possibly him and Paul Heyman, if he was still, God rest his soul, around. I mean, he did get a chance to call the gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania 17, and he was still amazing, even at that, with him and Mean Gene and the whole nine.
And of course, the late great Iron Sheik winning that, although it took him forever and a day to get
Forever
down to the
to
ring.
get to the ring. Oh man, yes, but it was great.
We talked about WCW, ECW. ECW was not really known for their managers all that much, but of course, one, and I think is a manager, and you saw him in TNA. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
The Sinister Minister, James Mitchell, aka James Vandenberg.
Yes, he was in WCW, ECW as a Sinister Minister, like you mentioned, TNA with Abyss, Click, Doomsday. He was with Judas Messias. He was with the New Church. I loved everything that James Mitchell represented, especially in the later years with Rosemary.
Except for
and
NWA. I'm looking at you, Billy Corgan. You know what you did.
You know what you did, Billy. Yes, with the Coke.
Thunder Snow?
Thunder Snow.
Thunder
Like
Snow
with
said what?
says what? With Rosemary and Havoc and everything that went on later years with that in the Undead Realm. Like, James Mitchell cannot do any wrong in my eyes because, I mean, as he's gotten older, but he can still put that evil laugh. He could put that evil, devilish smile, and he knows how to be that evil
And
character that
voice.
yes,
The voice.
the voice. Oh man. But no, I love that.
And again, I think you talk about him, another great manager that doesn't get a whole lot of talk nowadays, Mr. Fuji.
With Yokozuna and Fuji Vice with Don Morocco. Oh yeah.
And even when he managed not LOD, Demolition.
Here comes the axe. Here comes the smasher.
Now, the gentleman that sang the Demolition theme song,
Yes.
also same guy that did Hulk Hogan's theme. Good old Rick Derringer.
Rick Derringer, yeah.
Who hates the song Real American. He hates that it's associated with wrestling.
Really? I did not know that.
Oh, he's bitter about it.
Well, you know who used to be before Hogan, right? The U.S. Express. Friggin' Mike.
And they used it a couple times, and then like, no, we're gonna try it on this Hulk Hogan guy.
And that worked. It worked beautifully.
And then Jimmy Hart came up with the cheap knockoff American Made.
He's American made, and
then they gave it to Abyss for a while.
In TNA, he gave him the power of the Hall of Fame ring, brother. He's American made.
And then I think they even had Abyss do the leg, big boot and leg drop for a while.
He did.
So and I'm an Abyss fan.
Me too. But he was a Hulkamaniac for a little bit, brother.
Exactly. But there's so many wonderful managers, and I don't think we see it a lot.
No, I mean, if you want to look at the females, like God rest her soul, I love Daphne. I love Daphne to death for what she did with wrestling in ring, outside the ring. I mean, when she was with David Flair and Crowbar, like the obsessed fan, like that stuff worked because she's also just with her look and her type, like the goth look really worked very well with Daphne, and that was just who she was. I mean, she was Governor Palin in TNA really, really briefly, which, okay. Yeah, that happened, folks.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. I could see Russia from my house. God damn it. Just everything that went into that time period, even Daphne. I mean, Raisha Saeed with Awesome Kong was a great manager. With the good old cheerleader, Melissa. All right. If you want to count this, Billy Gunn, Cute Kip with the Beautiful People. Good old Cute Kip. That happened.
I guess, you could even mention Brandy Rhodes.
Yeah.
Kind of. I'm I hate to bring it up because honestly, the whole thing with her and Dan Lambert, which was so stupid, it was funny.
Oh yeah, well they tried stuff already. I know.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I know.
Dan Lambert, another one, good manager. Not even a wrestler. Like he's a guy who, again, it's like you and me. He's a fan,
and he's an MMA guy too, like American Top Team. He's a belt collector. He's a wrestling fan, but he was so good. He could talk trash. Like he helped that gimmick helped Bobby Lashley like to a new extent in TNA when he was with the American Top Team and that everything. That really helped Bobby Lashley and elevate him even more.
And you think of his work in AEW, like he's a talker.
And he was good as that talker. I mean, you could kind of also count Piper, like when he was doing the brief thing with Sean O'Hare. Like that worked for a little bit.
And I'm not telling you something you don't already know.
Hell yes, my dear friend. But no, like,
and I was a Sean O'Hare fan in WCW.
Me too. That's the Shanton Bomb. Hello.
Because he had a look like steroids.
I mean, let me holla at you, player. We'll even go Teddy Long.
That's all you're getting out of me.
But no, he was good with the skyscrapers, and he was good as, I mean, everybody thinks him as the referee in the SmackDown GM, where you can go one-on-one.
Let me tell you something, Mike.
Go ahead.
If people don't think that as Theodore R. Long was a great manager, then you know what's going to happen? You want to know what's going to happen?
Hit me.
You're going to go one-on-one with The Undertaker.
Like the referee role, the skyscrapers, managing Doom, Butch Reed, and Ron Simmons. Everything that he was just funny. I mean,
WWE.
Friggin' Rodney Mack, and he's doing it for all these crackers. He was so Devon. Why you got to get the tables?
And you know what? And from what I've heard, Teddy Long is like one of the nicest people.
Oh yeah, but like first of all, like I grew up when I started watching wrestling was the Ruthless Aggression era. Like I remember the White Boy Challenge. I was there when Goldberg mollywopped Rodney Mack at Madison Square Garden, like third row. I remember that. Like Rodney Mack got over with that, and that was originally D'Lo Brown, but then they fired D'Lo Brown, and then they moved Rodney Mack, who was Red Dog with John Cena, like he was his new boy for a brief time, but then they moved him over to Raw as Rodney Mack.
And then, from what I'd heard, Rodney Mack got a little stiff with Goldberg.
Oh yeah.
No.
I mean, Rodney Mack. First of all, I like how you said the Players Club and theater, but Thuggin' and Buggin' Productions. It was Thuggin' and Buggin' Productions, Thuggin' and Buggin' Promotions. With when they put Chris Nowinski with Rodney Mack, because you know why they're going up against us? Because you know why? Not because I'm a Harvard graduate. You're a black man, and I'm an intelligent Harvard graduate. Not the fact that he's white, but and they put him with Rodney Mack was great. Like it was great. They're all against me because I'm smart. I'm a Harvard graduate. They did that for
And
me.
you did the whole you're a smart black man gimmick. Like it made no. Nowinski is somebody that I wonder, had he not gotten the concussion, what would have happened?
He would have been Jack Swagger, but without a lisp.
Yeah, probably.
But that's the
Fun
thing.
fact,
like, yeah.
you know Maven at one time was being considered for Evolution.
I know. I remember 04.
No.
That wouldn't have worked.
But he got hurt.
Yes.
It wouldn't have worked.
It would not have worked. And I like Maven, but it would not.
You know, we talk about managers. We forgot Ric Flair.
Yeah, Evolution. Yeah, Four Horsemen. I mean, you can also put in Harley Race in there because he was with Vader for a little bit. Yeah.
King Harley Race.
King Harley Race, yeah. Oh, J.J. Dillon.
Indeed. You know, there's so many. The great ones, you know, you just don't forget. Now, let me ask you, Mike.
Yes.
Who would you, if you had to pick, we'll say a top 5, any era, who would you go with? And no, right. You don't have to put them in order. You don't have to rank them.
Well, if I'm thinking old school, whether he's a baby face or heel, I was always a classy Freddie Blassie guy. You listen, you pencil neck geeks. Grand Wizard was funny also too, but I was more of a all right. So we'll start 1, Freddie Blassie. Number 2, I would go with Paul Heyman. Number 3, I would go with Jimmy Hart. Number 4, I would go with Paul Bearer. And number 5, if I had to pick, Jimmy Hart. No particular order, but those 5 that really stick out to me. 5 would be Jimmy Hart / Bobby the Brain Heenan.
That's a good list. You know, for me, and across all the eras that I am familiar with, I gotta go number 1, Paul Heyman. You know, just in mind. You know, I'm going. You know, I gotta go with Prince Nana because I think he's a guy. He can work heel. He can work face. Paul Bearer, because it's Paul Bearer. Like, if you're a wrestling fan of the 90s, you hear that voice and you instantly know who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, so I had Nana, Heyman, Bearer. You know, I got to go with Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, just because, you know, he's a classy Miss Elizabeth.
Okay.
She was your stereotypical valet. You know, she made the client look good. You know, I never bought her as a heel in WCW, though.
I didn't get that either, just because she was just so doggone nice. Like, you're going to make her a heel. Like, no. I couldn't do it.
It didn't work.
I think for me, and you have a great list too, but I think one other one I got to mention from the 80s, just because, like, you know, often imitated, never duplicated, and just the Rock and Wrestling Connection, Captain Lou Albano.
Oh, yeah? Or, you know, even Jacqueline.
Miss Texas, okay, yeah. That works. Alexandra York, Terry Reynolds with Marlena. Yes, because she made that Goldust gimmick amazing. China with DX. I think
Oh,
just
she was perfect. Like I remember seeing when she debuted by attacking Marlena slash Terry Reynolds, whatever you want to call her.
yeah.
You just see this massive woman, like this huge, like muscular, like, and I remember seeing her and thinking like, who the heck is that?
My thing about that was, besides the fact that she was a bodybuilder and she was a training in Killer Kowalski school, what I liked about her too is Triple H had the balls to say, you know what, I'm going to have a bodyguard and it's going to be a woman, and it worked.
And initially, Vince didn't want her. Like,
No, he's like, what are you talking about? You're going to have a woman as your bodyguard, and it fit.
and but she worked.
She did, because she was just so good at what she did. I mean, working with men, working with women. Another one, God rest her soul, gone too soon. And I mean, if she hadn't have had her demons, I think we would have probably be seeing her today working with a lot of the young girls, or just like from teaching standpoint or what have you. I think she would have been a great teacher for the youngins.
Yeah. And personally, I'll say we all know what she did after,
WWE, yeah.
wrestling. We know. I think she deserves to have her own induction in the Hall of Fame as a solo act.
I mean, the last time we saw her in a wrestling capacity before her death was her and Kurt Angle against Jeff Jarrett and Karen Karen Jarrett on pay per view, which
Was not good.
not good. But I mean, for me, man, like, I mean, she's in there with DX, but like, there's more like for her I mean, excluding the adult entertainment side of things, you have a career right there within a video package.
First female WWE Intercontinental Champion. First and only.
Intercontinental champion, yes. Like,
Former women's champion. Unfortunately, I think she was a victim of circumstance, given what happened with Triple H and Stephanie and that whole thing.
mhm.
And Triple H has since said he regrets what happened.
Yeah, he's matured now. I think around that time he was in like his late 20s, going to be early 30s, and I mean, the man's like in his 50s now. So I mean, he's matured a lot from that time period.
And Stephanie has even said that she regrets what happened.
I think we can also include her in this list here because Stephanie was great with
Oh,
Triple
yeah.
H and as a manager, but like her facials and everything in her right. But she's another one, like babyface, heel, or just as a person, you could tell. Like, I mean, a lot of people are clamoring for her to come back because of what she's done for the women. I think she'd be
Yeah.
great if she came back now with everything that's going on. But Stephanie's up there. And I think another two I'd have to put out for the women just because, again, modern times. Trish Stratus was a great manager, whether she was with Christian, whether she
Lita.
was with Lita, yeah, Lita and the Hardys, Trish and TNA, Test and Albert, yeah.
I mean, there's so.
I mean,
I will say what I like that AEW is doing.
mhm.
They're bringing back managers more often. You've got Mother Wayne, you've got Prince Nana.
Yep. Julia Hart with the House of Black.
And honestly, kudos to Julia Hart for really, really improving.
Well, she went from a cheerleader to this new character, and she's owned it, and she's really, really improved.
Yeah. It goes to show that if you give somebody a chance and you invest in them, and if they want to be, something, they'll do it.
My thing too is as well, and one I will add to your point here. I mean, we had Kai and Tai with Yamaguchi-san. We had the oddities. I mean, you had your fun characters there, but I think another one that
Luna
sticks
Vachon,
out. Luna Vachon would count, yes, with
God
Goldust.
rest her soul.
God rest her soul. She was another one with
Which
the
I
face.
don't even is she in the Hall of Fame? I don't think she is.
No, I think Mad Dogs are, but Luna's not. No.
Yeah, her
Which is
father is.
her
I think
father.
her father and grandfather are.
Yeah, the Moondogs. Yeah, but her no.
Now, just as an aside, we talk about the Hall of Fame,
Mhm.
which we should be getting announcements, I would think, relatively soon.
Yeah.
I wonder what the Hall of Fame, because in years past, it's always been Vince's decision.
Right.
And there were people that, didn't get in because of it. It was said that Vince was adamant about not putting in Macho Man.
Mhm.
Now that Vince is gone, now that Vince McPalpatine is gone,
Mhm.
hopefully he rots in prison, but that's beside the point. I wonder what's it going to look like this year. Who are we going to get in? Are we going to see Demolition? Are we going to see maybe Miss Elizabeth?
Sandman.
Sandman? Paul, you are going to be in Philadelphia. If there's ever a time to
To
put
put Paul
Paul Heyman into the Hall of Fame, now.
Now is the time.
But let me ask you this, Mike, as an aside.
Yeah.
Who would you pick to induct Paul Heyman into the Hall of Fame?
Oh, jeez. Tommy Dreamer.
It's a tough call.
Tommy Dreamer.
Tommy would be a perfect choice. You could even do the Dudley. Anybody.
The Dudley, Mick Foley.
I would have said Brock, but
no.
Wait,
No.
I don't think Brock's we're gonna be seeing him for a long time. I think Brock's gonna, like Vince, is gonna get the Benoit treatment. You're never gonna see.
I mean, they're erasing him from like downplaying in games and stuff and all that good and creative.
I have to go off on an aside here just because people. They removed him from the Super Card game, which that is a card game. That is relatively easy to do.
Right.
WWE 2K24 is set to release. Let me check the calendar just so I can. Okay, so the game is set to release on March 8th for the standard edition and the deluxe and in the physical, media. If you get the 40 years of WrestleMania edition, which of course, Mike, you know me enough now. Which one do you think I bought?
The 40 years of WrestleMania?
Yes, I did. If you order that one, and that is a digital edition, that one is available on Tuesday, March 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is February 3rd. That is a month and like 3 days.
Yep.
The game is done. It's essentially done.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to glorify Brock? No. You've got to figure he's probably in the 40 years of WrestleMania mode. We're probably maybe we're getting him versus Angle. They haven't announced all the matches yet, so we don't know. I guarantee you we're probably getting Brock versus Undertaker.
Oh, you have to. You cannot ignore that.
It would be insanely difficult to remove him at this point.
I would say just leave him and then take him out of the next one. Or don't you put him in the next one?
I guarantee you they're already working on 2K25. Guarantee it.
I think it's unfortunate. Like, I mean, we're in this time with managers like that. I mean, because that would be a perfect thing if Brock were to ever induct Paul Heyman. But I think the choices that we mentioned, like a Mick, a Tommy Dreamer, or someone of that magnitude, or hell, even the Undertaker himself, like, there's a lot of people that could induct Paul Heyman to that Hall of Fame. And I think it's the right time to do it is now. But as far as the manager, it's Philly. It's fucking ECW. Come on now, 2300 Arena, baby. But I think if there's any time, like we talk about all the managers that we mentioned, and there have been buttloads and tons. I mean, for a comedy side of things, I have two more: Harvey Whippleman and his sweet Bertha Faye.
Kim
Chi says hi. Yes, Kim Chi is another that goes in there. Kamala and the whole nine. Yes, Kim Chi,
aka
Steve Lombardi.
Yes, aka the Brooklyn Brawler.
Yep.
Abe Knuckleball Short. Wasn't he Abe Knuckleball Shorts too?
He was Abe Knuckleball Schwartz.
Which, you know who we didn't discuss?
Mr. Hughes.
him, Leaping Lanny Poffo, aka the Genius.
Okay, well, I'll say Mr.
God
Hughes.
rest his soul.
God rest his soul. I will say first, Mr. Hughes is a classic one just because of his look and his stature. But if you really want to talk about a great one, Lanny Poffo's poems and just him being that dickwad of a character and just the genius going from Leaping Lanny Poffo to the Genius, excellent.
You know, and I will say this: had he been in a different time, Chris Nowinski and the Genius would have been perfect together.
One's a smart Harvard graduate, and the other one is also very articulate and intelligent. That would work.
I feel like it would have worked.
I do too. And I mean, with the Genius, like whoever he managed or whoever he was associated with, he can make him look good from his poetic articulation, like I mentioned. But also that added more layers to Lanny because Lanny was great as a wrestler, Leaping Lanny Poffo, but as the manager side of things, I think that was another golden
And
opportunity.
don't forget. Oh, we even forgot the Doctor of Soul, Slick.
The Doctor of Style.
Yep, Doctor of Style, Slick.
Okay.
You know, I believe he last managed Kamala.
Yes, and he was also a jive.
You are a man.
And also he was a jive soul, bro. A jive soul, bro. A jive soul, bro. A jive soul. Remember the WrestleMania album with the jive soul, bro?
I actually, what was it? The one I believe it came out maybe 93 or 94.
Okay.
The album, it had the WrestleMania theme that Linda McMahon would end up using.
That
one.
Yep. I remember
God,
the
that was horrible.
It was horrible, but I also remember the Land of a Thousand Dances with all of them doing the na 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 na.
And the wrestling album, which I wish they would re-release that.
Eat Your Heart Out, Rick Springfield. She's my girl.
And don't forget, Stand Back.
That's a fact.
The performance of that, like it, and you see all these guys, you see Jake the Snake pretending to play the saxophone. And he's another one now as a manager.
Oh, with Lance Archer, yes.
He's incredible. He's somebody who, to me, his promos, like he's somebody that you could look at, look into the camera and it's as if he's looking right at you.
Agreed. Like he's again from the psychology from in ring and outside the ring. Jake is an intimidating son of a gun. But I got to go back to Stand Back for a second, just because you brought that up.
What you're saying is you got to stand back.
I don't know where you're going. See a lot of men drop, baby. Watch it drop, baby. And then he points to Hogan. Yeah, that's all there you can we talk a lot of crap about Vince, but if you want to see something, it's so funny. He shakes his bootay. It's a performance from the Slammies. You gotta watch it.
It was that bad.
It was a Stand Back. That's a fact. Oh my god. But no, Jake Roberts, 80s,
the 80s.
Man. The 80s. But Jake Roberts was as great as a manager in AEW, like we mentioned with Lance Archer. One other one I got to mention, and then we'll take it home with this one because it's funny on a lighthearted note. The Great Khali had a translator by the name of Ranjan Sang,
who was a SmackDown writer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was a writer at the time. I don't think he's there anymore, but yeah, the Great Khali says.
And as Khali, I feel we have to admit, Sean Davari.
Yeah, okay, see that worked even.
Khosrow Davari.
Yes, okay, that would apply too because Muhammad Hassan, of course, and then he would go with. Then you had Kurt Angle, Turn On America, and go with Davari against John Cena, and the fact that he legit said on television as a heel that he hates black people. Oh my God. That happened. That legit happened at that time, folks.
That was a Vince McMahon thing.
Kurt, say you hate the. I don't mean to laugh, but you know he told him to say it. He told him to say it, and he did. Just like Charmel, I want to have bestiality sex with your wife. Like, Booker, I want to have bestiality sex with your wife. Jesus God almighty.
Like, but I will tell you, like,
yes.
Davari, I loved him as a manager. He's that kind of that he was the perfect heel manager, that sniveling,
Yep.
and he was that wild Rob. And nothing gets people worked up than the foreign heel. It's a trope that works. Especially when, and it wouldn't matter what language, whether it was French, Spanish, German, whatever. Like, listen to the crowd reactions when Ludwig Kaiser speaks in German, or when Gunther speaks in German.
Oh, they blew the crap out of him.
The crowd hates it.
I mean, like you mentioned, like,
and it works. It still works.
I mean, Sheik and Koloff agreed with that, and I mean, like you mentioned with Kaiser, like what he did with Muhammad Hassan, like when they were beating up Eugene and then Hogan made the save, or when they're beating up Shawn Michaels and they're wrestling all these talents, and with the VAR, like you mentioned, managing the Great Khali, working with Mark Henry, Kurt Angle. I mean, he's another one also that was very good in the ring, but he could talk. Out of Muhammad Hassan, like he could talk for Muhammad, and I mean, I like Muhammad Hassan. I do like Mark Kopani, Mark Magnus, whatever you want to call him, but he was not the best talker in the world.
No, and it's. I feel like he was a victim of circumstance. It's.
Oh, we've talked about this many a times. Like, if that bombing never would have happened, I think he would have been fine.
I think eventually he would have been WWE champion or world heavyweight champion.
I mean, when you had Washington, D.C. as the home for SummerSlam that year, and he was supposed to beat Batista, like, having the foreign heel win the title in the nation's capital, hello.
He would have been huge.
He would have. Well, yeah, man, I think we pretty much we covered a lot of the managers, but I will say another one just to very briefly include this one. I mean, Natalya, you can also make a case for because she managed the Hart Dynasty. Tamina, because she managed the Usos. Yeah. Is there any other ones that stick out?
Honestly, Natty, just because it's Natty.
Who doesn't love her?
And she's a cat person. You and me, we're cat people.
We got our cats, yes. I mean, Tamina, though, I'm going to say, ain't nobody meaner than Tamina. Tamina would work just because not only with the Usos coming in, but the fact that her and Natalya got their shine on, and she finally won the title after 10-plus years of being with that doggone company, which I thought was rightfully deserved.
I mean, I think she should have won a singles title, but...
Yeah, well, they didn't see her as... I mean, if I remember correctly, and I think this was the one time, she got a Divas Championship match with Beth Phoenix on a pay-per-view. I think it was like Elimination Chamber or something in 2012 when they turned.
And she also, I believe, she wrestled Bayley, I think, for the SmackDown Women's title.
Yes.
Bayley had a huge run.
Oh, yeah. Now I know why I don't remember it. That was during the pandemic era.
And again, it's sad because Tamina is so underrated.
Yeah, ain't nobody meaner than Tamina.
She's got the pedigree. She's the daughter of Jimmy Snuka. Her Superfly splash is, I would say, better than half the men that do that splash.
Well, she's also got the height and the weight and just the size advantage to it.
So it's
all right. I got
somebody who should have been a women's champion.
All right, I got one more, and I swear this is the last one. But as we're laughing and just reminiscing about the art form and the craft of the managers and the character and the facial expression, a lot of people actually forget this one because Michelle McCool was a manager for a little bit. No, I'm not talking about Lay Cool. I'm talking about early to mid 2006. She was the manager of the Teacher's Pets, Casey James and Idle Stevens. Idle Stevens, who would go on to be Damian Sandow. Remember that she was their manager for like a little bit? That happened. The Teacher's Pets.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Do I even want to include Linda Miles in this? Shaniqua as the Basham with the Basham brothers and the ball and gag.
We're pretending that time period just never happened.
Well, that's actually going to segue because that's going to be one of our upcoming shows. Stuff that would not work that happened back in the day that would not work now. And oh boy, we are going to open up Pandora's box on that one, folks.
Mike, we are not going to open Pandora's box. We are going to blow that lid open.
Because there's a lot of shit.
Once we open the door, people, once we open that forbidden door,
it's gonna be on.
There's no closing it.
There's
no closing that door.
But you're going to have to wait 2 episodes for that, because our next episode, we're going to be talking about classic belts, design belts, Winged Eagle, the Smoking Skull Championship.
The big gold, and some of the classic designs that we all know.
Mm-hmm.
And the hell happened to belts nowadays?
And we're also going to talk about one of Daniel Crimmins' favorite titles, the Enigma Championship, the Jeff Hardy TNA World's Heavyweight Championship that he loves so much. With a passion. When Jeff Hardy debuted that belt, he hates it so much.
Everybody, Sting hated that title. Mr.
Anderson
hated it too.
It looked like the Divas Championship.
Oh, no. You want to talk about a title that looks like the Divas title? You're talking about the IWGP World Heavyweight title.
Oh, we're going to go into a lot of bad ones,
too. We're going to talk.
I know. We're also going to talk about the classic Spinner Championship. Spin it. They spin it.
Both that and the Rated R, which Edge actually hated.
Oh, you just want to talk about it?
He hated the Rated R Spinner.
We are going to open up Pandora's box, and I cannot wait to get to that episode with you. So as we come to tie a bow on episode 5 here of Uncaged, Daniel Crimmins, you should follow us, SM Show 1, MCL92, Larkin _92, M Larkin MB on the Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Mike Larkin 92, which features this show.
Right down in there somewhere.
Right down here. Features Deep Into the Heart of Wrestling, Uncaged, Robert Davis and Nicola McDonald, On the Mic with Mike, the LFC podcast, Pop Culture History podcast, Steve and Mike show, and keep us going, man. We're around 740 something doggone subscribers now, which thank y'all, because we want to get
your show Deep in the Heart of Wrestling with Robert Davis and Nicola McDonald. Yeah. What's your next? When are you guys coming back? What do you have cooking next?
Okay, well, we'll talk about that. So, TNA versus WWE Monday Night Wars coming up. We're going to do some superstar spotlights. We're going to talk about Killer Cross and Scarlett Bordeaux. We're going to be talking about Tessa Blanchard. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff coming up. We're going to talk about Tony Khan and how he should stay the fuck off of social media. Like much what we do here, folks. You have to get a lot of different analysis with Deep Into the Heart of Wrestling and here on Uncaged. So stay tuned for that and keep subscribing, man. We want to get up to 1,000 some odd doggone subscribers, but we're halfway to 800. So thank you as you stay upon this journey with us and listen to us do what we do and love what we do. And that is talk about the world of professional wrestling. And Daniel Crimmins, do you want to promote the Pile Driver Pundit? You just put out episode 4.
I put episode 4 out last week. I will be recording episode number 5 tomorrow.
Hell yeah.
There's, it's trying doing different things. It's what is different with my show is you're not going to get a bias. You're going to get straight facts to the point. I'm not, me, Mike, I am not pro AEW. I am not pro WWE. I'm not one or the other. I am pro wrestling.
Put that on a t-shirt. I like that slogan. I like it.
See what I did there?
I saw what you did there.
And there is so much news going on. We've had an incredible week of wrestling. Honestly, a really solid Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Or PLE. I hate calling it PLEs. I think it's dumb.
I still call it pay-per-views. I can't call it a PLE.
And, we had Bayley finally getting her flowers, and getting the Rumble, which well-deserved.
Yep. And
I am looking forward to Bayley versus Io Sky at Mania. I think it's going to be a great, great match.
Yep.
And we covered that Cody Roman thing.
Ooh. there's a lot to dive into in the upcoming weeks, man. But yeah, we covered the Royal Rumble in the last one and Royal Rumble surprises and good stuff. But go back and listen to that one. If you've not seen the Royal Rumble, go out of your way and watch it because it was actually pretty doggone decent. And also,
Honestly,
Bailey.
it was a good show. It was one of the better Royal Rumbles in the past few years.
Oh yeah, I mean, you have that immense talent. Like you really didn't need too many surprises, but the surprises we got were awesome. Bailey and Io signed me up, like you mentioned. I think that's going to be really good.
We had Jordan Grace in the Rumble, featured prominently, and TNA was not downplayed, which, Vince was there. It would have been.
Yeah, but I think to really wrap it up, man, just such a great week in wrestling. Check out our last show, talk about the Royal Rumble. Check out all the week and everything going into professional wrestling. And yeah, we appreciate you guys listening to this show.
Watch all our episodes.
Watch all of our episodes. Subscribe.
Click the little bell.
Click it.
So that whenever we upload, you get to see our faces. Subscribe to me. Subscribe to my show. Help me grow.
Yeah, subscribe to the Pile Driver Pundit. Link will be in the description, man. Subscribe to Daniel. Do the damn thing.
Yeah.
This grill.
See our faces.
This grill.
We're trying to grow as Pat McAfee would say, for the brand.
For the brand and for each and every one of you. For Daniel Kermans, my name is Mike Larkin. Thank you for listening to another edition of Uncaged, and we will see you in episode 6. Good night, everybody.